Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lucky Dog Podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Marriage Story 2019 is an American comedy drama, film written, directed, and produced by Noah Baumbach. Noah Baumbach is one of these, what some people would say is like auteurs of cinema that I actually am not too familiar with. He has a couple of stories under his belt that some people might know other than I. Original screenplays such as The Squid and the Whale, 05. He wrote Margaret at the Wedding in 07. Frances Ha, 2012. While We're Young, 2014. Mistress America, 2015. And the Meyerowitz stories 2017, and I have seen zero of those. But after watching Marriage Story 2019, what year is it? Marriage Story 2019, I'm going to have to reconsider that because this is what I look for in cinema. Sometimes I say that, like, this is why I like to watch movies, or this is why I like to review movies, or this is why I'm interested in shooting video like movies. I'm a videographer, so this I could never shoot anything like this because it is written, acted, directed like nothing I've seen this year, obviously, but in a couple years. Some of the pros for this, the acting, the casting. I'm not going to release everybody who's in this movie if you don't know too much about this movie, which I didn't know. I saw only a couple of memes of Adam Driver, like what looked like he was yelling at Scarlett Johansson. I was like, oh God, I'm not really sure if I'm ready for this. It's kind of one of those things that if you know the entire story, do you want to go through with it? And if you know the entire story, you know that Marriage Story 2019, small spoiler alert on what the actual movie is about. Just like if you don't want to know anything, just come right back to it. But this movie is about the divorce of a married couple. And Wikipedia says this is specifically a married couple going through a coast-to-coast divorce because the geography of this divorce is very relevant to what's going on in this movie. So, yeah, like I said, the pros, the two main actors in this are powerhouse performances led by Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver, as well as the young boy. They have a young son named, his real name is Isaiah Robertson, I believe, and I've never seen this kid in anything to my knowledge. But he was excellent in this. I was very surprised with along these two massive performances that he was able to still hold his own. So I will leave a little credence to the director as well, because Noah Baumbach directs the hell out of this movie. I think it's perfectly well paced. You understand the dynamics of this family. You understand that there's not really a bad guy. You see the inner workings of the judicial court system, of how it inflicts possibly more stress and pain and financial pain and burden among these two people that honestly are quite amicable on most terms. And so the majority of this movie, they aren't yelling at each other. This is not your typical relationship falling apart where they're constantly bickering at each other and whatnot. You can see some genuine love within these two characters, and honestly it really felt like these two actors were getting a real life divorce, and a lot of this movie feels like it's somewhat in the perspective of the child in some sense. But yeah, I absolutely was blown away by the performances and just the way that this movie's structured. It's not your typical. It's called it's not. It's like the opposite of a rom-com because it's definitely got this like dark comedic element to it because this is such a heavy topic. You need to have this other counterbalance of the occasional joke or these really great side characters that really embellish the plot as well. So yeah, I was really impressed by pretty much all of the acting and performances all across the board. No quibbles about it. As a matter of fact, I don't have hardly any quibbles about this movie at all. I mean, the score. A lot of people were praising the score, and I think the score does exactly what it needs to do, and kind of giving you these subtle cues. And I think, if I remember correctly, there isn't any soundtrack music used. It's all score. I assume it's originally composed, but who is it? Score. I don't see who the score is by. Let me see if I can find it. Music by Randy Newman. Okay, I haven't heard of this guy before, or if I have, I'm not familiar with it. Him, Ragtime Awakenings, Natural, Leatherheads, Pleasantville, Meet the Parents, Cold Turkey, Seabiscuit. Scored 9. Oh, he scored 9 Pixar animated films: Toy Story, Bugs Life, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, Monsters University, Toy Story 4. Oh, he's done tons of stuff for. Yeah, he knows his stuff. So, yeah, this movie was incredible. Now, let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about in the spoiler-free section real quick. Yeah, the editing in this is really sharp. It's I guess most of the time when I expect some of these rom-coms to just be kind of, half-baked, a little bit, like somewhat like a Hallmark movie, overacted, not very well written. The acting's too indulgent, it's over dramatic. This is exactly the opposite of all of that. It feels like it, powerhouse acting, amazing directing. They're not really indulging in the characters. There's a couple of campy performances from some of the side characters, but honestly, I feel like you really need some of those side performances to balance out how strenuous this relationship can be at some time. Sometimes. Let's see. This movie shifts perspective between both of the characters pretty seamlessly. I really love how they did it. And a lot of the scenes, it would show maybe like a day or a week with one of the characters and their struggle of what this divorce is kind of weighing on them, and who they have to talk to, the legal process, their personal process, and how all of that works. And then it'll show both of the characters coming together in some sort of scene, and then it'll switch perspectives again, and you'll go with either the wife or the husband, or the one you weren't following originally. And so it switches from the husband's perspective to the wife's perspective throughout the movie, and it's pretty seamless in the way it does it. I was really impressed. I don't think I've seen too many movies that I've consciously realized that that's what was going on. Like I said, this is a very geographical based movie. She is her name's Scarlett Johansson's character's name is Nicole, and her family is originally from L.A. and he is originally from New York. And so, a big part of this movie is how their jobs are keeping them kind of held down to these pieces of America, and or the state specifically, because New York is very heavily involved in the theatrical part of Broadway and theater and play, and LA is very much kind of the opposite of that. It's very much television, movies, and that other type of media, and so they're living in two very different worlds in a way, But I don't want to give away too much of the structure of the plot, because the more you find out just watching it, you're like more engrossed. I really do feel like the more information you find out about this marriage and how it goes down, and how the people around them act. I thought that was a lot of fun, just to hear how other people were reacting to this marriage. There's points in the film that they. Like Charlie, the husband, is a successful theater director, and he directs a lot of the plays that she is in. And so the entire theater, everyone that is, all the actors and all the, grips and all the people there know about this divorce. And they kind of talk in a way that is like fourth wall breaking. It's like the camera will like hover between all of the actors, and we'll hear like these side conversations of what they think about the divorce and how it's going down. And so it's a very unique way of kind of giving a fourth wall breaking way of explaining what's going on and what other people think about this divorce, especially from the theater side. Let me see if there's anything else we got to let me see. It's very much a movie about gaslighting and jealousy and selfishness. I unfortunately sometimes saw parts of myself in this movie, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to work on that. And I can't be so self-indulgent. And this movie might have a way of showing you a little bit of self-reflectiveness, if that makes sense. You might see yourself in some of these characters, for better or for worse. And I was going in, I was like, oh, am I going to see too much of myself or someone I know in there, or vice versa, or people friends, family, etc. And I don't think there's tons of qualities and traits that they really apply to Scarlett Johansson's character specifically, because I do feel like overall the movie leans toward her side just a tad bit, but that's only for just kind of details I'll leave into spoilers. So let's talk about Marriage Story 2019 in the spoiler section. So we're in the spoiler section for Marriage Story. I want to talk about these side cameos real quick about my favorite cameos within the movie. Wallace Shawn has some of the most hilarious lines. Kind of wish he was in it a little bit more. Laura Dern as one of the Bulldog lawyers, and Ray Liotta. His introduction scene, fucking had me almost in tears. I was almost in tears. I was in tears in multiple parts of this movie. I was like Charlie when they were describing all of the going to movies and stuff like that, and how many times you cried. I probably cried twice, but I was crying once because I was laughing so hard at the Ray Liotta scene. He was like, all right, first of all, there's 25 grand, then we're going to take your kids' funds, and then we're going to take your wife, and then they really showed you from that perspective that he was like, both of them really were amicable at the beginning. And let me get a little bit of this Dankachine coffee. So let me back up just a little bit. The first scene we have with Laura Dern, it's very slow and methodical about the way that she's kind of, getting cozy with Scarlett Johansson's character. I mean, she takes her shoes off, she offers her tea, she's, kind of indulging her and just listening in something that it doesn't seem that Charlie was really seemed to be interested in doing. And so the whole fact is, that whole slow moving it was almost like a 5-minute scene of Scarlett Johansson just unraveling her feelings of about Charlie, and then at the very end she's like, oh yeah, and I think he cheated, and then Laura Dern's like, fuck him. And so I think it's at that moment that Laura Dern's like, all right, we need to take him to court. She needs to keep that as her secret weapon, Deus Ex affair. And so I think the affair is what puts the ball in her court the majority of the movie, and not in his. He clearly is a workaholic, and he enjoys his work and doesn't seem to really have a big perspective on how she feels about her work, and him directing her for better or for worse. I mean, the very first scene we see, once we realize they're getting a divorce, that they still have to go through the process of critiquing, or he has to critique her as a director, and so she's just torn up by that and can't be upset in front of him. And so I think one of the things was, she doesn't like crying on stage, but like immediately, I mean, she's crying throughout this entire movie. I mean, I felt so bad for. I just wanted to give her a hug. I felt so, helpless. And so, yeah, the performances right there are where you realize, from that point, you realize it's on. And so he's controlling he's manipulative in ways. He kind of gives false promises. This movie specifically, I'm just kind of going down my list of stuff. This movie is a movie about movies, and people in high places in the movie industry world like movies about movies. So let's just say La La Land was a movie about movies. That, they love that. That almost got a picture of the year. The conversations behind the studios are hilarious. They're talking about if the shows that are being portrayed in there are environmentally accurate, and then this guy's like, "Oh hell no, they're not. Nothing." He said it's all fucked, and I was cracking up because it feels like this movie is not only making a movie about movies, but it's got a little bit of Broadway. It's shot in a way that almost feels like a play, and sort of in a play, more like a theater play, and then with the long takes and stuff like that. But then other scenes are just amazing. Like the comedy, this random guy passes when they're behind the studio, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna kill them off." It's just like the most random conversations that you probably would hear behind the studios, but it's still hilarious to hear it nonetheless. Charlie gives false promises within her career and personal life, saying that he'll encourage going out to LA a little bit more, but yet he didn't want to accept any of the jobs or opportunities that were happening there. There seemed like ample opportunity for him to have turned around, and I think my only critique about this movie is that I kind of wanted to see, like, there definitely felt like there was like a 3-month period that we missed during this movie. It felt like we witnessed the majority of the very final good bits of their marriage through that early intro, almost like a montage of them explaining the letters that they wrote to each other, about why she's a good mom, why he's a good dad, why they're good people, that type of thing. And just like there seemed to be a part where they still seemed like they were able to, I don't know, I really do feel like there was 3 months that, like, they should have tried to go to the therapist a little bit more. I felt like there was only one real scene of the therapist, and they wrote each other letters about it. But it seemed like we were at the very back end of the therapy and not at the very front end at the therapy. If we were at the front end of the therapy sessions and we could see how these therapy sessions were going along, it might change my perspective just a little bit, because it seemed like they went straight from they were happy and they were having a great time, and they became kind of indulgent in their work, and they wanted to become more involved in their work, to just being separated, and there was no tearing apart. It just kind of seemed like it all of a sudden was like, all right, we're getting a divorce. And it's kind of slowly revealed at the very end that they aren't having sex, and we don't see them ever having sex, I think, throughout this entire movie, which is pretty powerful for a relationship between two on-screen couples, to have such a strong bond and them not even have hardly any physical connection. I mean, I don't think that's always necessary, but it's quite impressive, honestly. But yeah, so let me see, anything else that we wanted to cover through this. Get a little bit of coffee while we're doing this too. A couple of small things that I wanted to just touch on. Scarlett Johansson, so phenomenal. Also, Adam Driver, I've seen him in, I did not see him in Girls, but I saw him in, obviously, Last Jedi. I saw him in The Force Awakens. I've seen him in all of these, and I'm going to see him pretty soon in the new Rise of Skywalker. What the hell have these directors been doing with this guy? I mean, excuse me, but Adam Driver is a phenomenal actor, and I was not ready for that. I saw him in Black Klansman, and he had pretty good comedic timing then, but I didn't know he had the range. The range for this guy is through the roof. I was like, I have an affinity for The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and I thought he did it, good. I always thought he was just playing that character, and honestly, I wasn't too fond of the actor at that point. But once I saw him start to show a little bit of range within Black Klansman, and I saw that he had way more range in this, and I think I've seen him in something else. I don't remember what else I saw him in, but let me see. Lincoln, I did not see him in that. George Jarmusch, no, I haven't seen him. I don't know. I thought I saw him in something else other than that, but I was really impressed with him in this movie, and y'all need to start using this guy and stuff. Like, oh, I forgot that I saw a little bit of Silence. I think he was I don't think that was a great movie, if I remember correctly. I didn't see the full thing, but I'm not going to critique it off of just that. But I know he can just embody different styles of characters, whether he's this space samurai, or if he's a priest in Japan. It's or if he's a suburban dad in L.A. or New York, or something like that. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is this guy can really embody the character, but he has to have the direction and he has to have the writing, appropriately with it. I mean, this guy was singing at the end of this movie. I was like, whoa! I was like, and it's a pretty long take. It's not like several different edits. Like the editor's just like, fuck it, let's let it roll. And so I was just like, holy shit, this guy can do it all. Like, and y'all are completely underutilizing him in all of these Star Wars movies. I liked him as like if I gave him a rating, it'd be like a 7 out of 10 on those. But dude, this guy can fucking act his ass off. Like, use him. Like, God, my Lanta, just taking your sweet ass time with it. I really hope he brings the chops. But yeah, both of these are powerhouse performances, and same thing for Marvel. Marvel's used Scarlett Johansson's physicality and her performance, pretty well. And I know that she's coming out with another movie, I think, on Disney Plus. But this is how you use these people. This is how you use this actress, Scarlett Johansson. I mean, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And keep an eye on the young kid too. I think he's up and coming if he continues. Aziz Robertson. I apologize if I said that wrong. Anything else? The comedy in this can't be unstated enough. I just thought there's some funny ass lines that come out of some really dark humor. Like he's talking. Adam Driver's talking to Charlie's talking to his lawyer, and he's like, his lawyer says, "If I were representing you," and then he stops Bert, and he's like, "You are representing me, Bert." And he's like, at that point, he knew he had to get Ray Liotta back. He was like, "Fuck this! This guy is fucking sitting here telling me jokes, and he's hanging out with me like my grandpa." It's like, this is not what I paid for 10 grand. I'm going to have to get the big bucks. And I'm not even sure if the big bucks got him what he wanted at the very end. So, yeah, some great direction throughout this movie. The gate closing scene when they're trying to close Scarlett Johansson's gate, and that's when they switch the perspectives as well. Just tore my heart out seeing, you see both of their faces real quick as Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are moving the gate closed, and they don't even get to say anything. It just closes. And some great small details in this movie, like her slipping down the stairs ends up becoming a major plot point at the very end. It's like, whoa! It's like, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting Adam Driver's proclivities just to come out of nowhere. When they're having this big argument or something like that, and when he's walking out of the door, he has to turn off the lights in her own house because he's still so energy conscious. And even though he's mad, he still turns off the lights before he slams the door. It's like, that is some amazing. I want to know if that was in the writing, the directing, or who decided to do that, because I was almost applauding at that point. I was like, this is what makes people feel real. It's these small little character traits and minute details that make you feel endeared to them. And I could not, I could not recommend this enough to, just about anybody. I feel like, unless you and your spouse are going through something like this, I don't know if you'd want to do that to yourself, but maybe watch something a little bit more happy. But it ends so beautifully, even though it's a divorce. Like, I really was satisfied with how this movie worked. Let me see, anything else. Adam Driver in some of those scenes when there's some small scenes where he's maybe listening in on Scarlett Johansson and their son having a small conversation, and it's kind of clear that his son is definitely leaning towards hanging out with his mom more than his father, and prefers hanging out with her. And then there's just like small scenes where he's like, yeah, all my friends are in LA, all my family except you are in LA. It's like the son is so young, he doesn't understand. And honestly, even if you were 20 years old, I don't think you would understand just what kind of, I don't know what that does to you as a person and as a father. And seeing Adam Driver go through that just kind of recontextualizes a lot of things in my life personally. I'm just like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have been as harsh, or maybe I shouldn't have said that type of thing. And it really does help maybe some reevaluations. But I mean, obviously the son's very, very young in some scenes. So yeah, I'm gonna hep out of here. So y'all take it easy. I appreciate you sticking around for Marriage Story. Check out look at our podcast, everything, the Twitch, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, all the good stuff, all the popular podcasts. We got them all coming out. We just finished Watchmen 2009 review. It's coming up. The new HBO streaming service for Watchmen is finishing up. I'm actually recording it the night of the finale, so it hasn't happened, but it's been an amazing ride. I'm going to do a review of the entire series instead of a breakdown of each one, so be sure to check that out. We have The Irishman 2019 and Eyes Wide Shut, a retro review of 1999. Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's movie, and Mr. Robot, one of my favorite shows on television. If you have not watched Mr. Robot, go back. Amazon Prime has got it. If you got Amazon Prime, go watch that. At least in the States it is. If you don't, you know what to do. Find it on wherever you can and check it out. Go back on the review. Let me know what you think. It's coming to an end. We still got a couple more weeks, but it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. Hopefully it comes in for a nice landing. We don't want to do another Game of Thrones. What else have we have? The Shining, 1980. We have Terminator Dark Fate, 2019. Doctor Sleep, 2019. And Jojo Rabbit, 2019. Another great Scarlett Johansson flick. She's had a particularly good year for movies. And so, yeah, check that out. Lighthouse 2019. All the popular movies. Check them out. Thank you. We couldn't do without you. The support, paypal.me/podcast. Thank you, and take it easy.